In October 1947, thousands of Pashtun tribesmen and Pakistani military forces poured through the mountain passes into Kashmir. They were heavily armed, moving fast, and heading straight for the capital. In their path was Maharaja Hari Singh. He was the ruler of the territory, and the rapid invasion caught him completely off guard. The British had recently partitioned the subcontinent into two independent nations, India and Pakistan, and Hari Singh was stuck squarely in the middle. He had been trying to buy time, hesitating to formally join either country. But with hostile forces closing in on Srinagar, his options evaporated. He was forced into a corner. To secure military protection, Hari Singh made his choice. On October 26, 1947, backed by Governor-General Lord Mountbatten, the Maharaja signed the Instrument of Accession, formally aligning his state with India. The ink was barely dry when the Indian military mobilized. Within hours, troops were airlifted directly into the valley to repel the invaders and secure the territory. But the sequence of events leaves a historical question hanging in the air. During a brutal, religion-based partition of the subcontinent, how exactly did a Hindu king end up ruling a heavily Muslim-majority region in the first place? To answer that, we have to look past 1947. These handwritten notes trace Kashmir's deep roots. The region's history was recorded in Kalhana's Rajatarangini, a 12th century text. Looking down the timeline, King Ashoka introduced Buddhism in the 3rd century BC, and later the Hindu Karkota dynasty built massive temple complexes. The demographics shifted again in 1339. The Shah Mir dynasty took power, introducing Islam to the region and laying the groundwork for what would eventually become a strong Muslim majority among the local population. Then came the Mughal Golden Age, stretching from 1586 to 1752. Emperors like Akbar and Jahangir annexed Kashmir and poured wealth into the valley, transforming it into their favored summer capital. They left behind a physical legacy that still exists today: lush, highly engineered gardens designed to project the concept of an imperial paradise on Earth. These empires built infrastructure and brought wealth, but they also entrenched a pattern. For centuries, Kashmir was treated as a prized jewel, ruled and controlled almost entirely by outsiders. That pattern turned violent when Mughal rule collapsed. In 1762, control of the valley fell to the Afghans, marking a sudden shift in how the territory was managed. This handwritten record labels the next 67 years as the darkest period. Afghan governors enforced their rule through severe economic exploitation. Desperate, local Kashmiri nobles traveled to Lahore, pleading with the powerful Sikh Empire to launch a military rescue. The Sikhs accepted the invitation. In 1819, their military pushed the Afghans out of the valley. For the next 27 years, Kashmir operated as a strategic buffer zone for the Sikh Empire. By the mid-19th century, Kashmir had endured over 100 years of regime changes. The local economy was ruined, and the population was deeply fractured. Then the geopolitical landscape fractured again. The Anglo-Sikh War broke out in 1845, completely bankrupting the Sikh Empire in the process. Unable to pay a 1.5 million rupee penalty, the Sikhs surrendered their territories. The British then executed the 1846 Treaty of Amritsar, selling the Kashmir Valley to Raja Gulab Singh for 75 lakh rupees. The British treated a civilization of over 1 million people, along with the surrounding mountains, rivers, and valleys, as a line item on a commercial real estate transfer. This bill of sale created the Dogra Empire. It placed a Hindu king in absolute charge of a Muslim-majority population. The fuse for the 1947 crisis had just been lit. For the next 100 years, the Dogra dynasty ruled the state. Gulab Singh, Pratap Singh, and finally Hari Singh oversaw a long period of relative stability. They pushed to modernize the region, constructing hydroelectric projects, expanding road networks, and making primary education compulsory. Despite these infrastructure projects, the wealth stayed concentrated at the top. A vast disconnect remained between the ruling Dogra elite and the impoverished, predominantly Muslim peasantry working the land. By the 1930s, this inequality birthed an organized internal political resistance. The Muslim Conference, which later evolved into the Secular National Conference, began demanding representation. The primary voice leading this charge was a popular local leader named Sheikh Abdullah. He actively pushed back against the Maharaja's absolute rule, rallying the public for democratic rights.
Consequently, on the eve of the British departure from India, Maharaja Hari Singh's state was already a ticking time bomb of internal dissent. The internal pressure had reached a boiling point, regardless of the looming Pakistan-India divide. Which brings us back to the climax of 1947. The invasion and Hari Singh's subsequent accession to India triggered a devastating war, resulting in massive displacement. The fighting ended in a geopolitical stalemate. In 1949, a ceasefire was brokered, establishing the line of control. This line physically fractured the territory, creating a permanent border separating Indian and Pakistani administration. As we can see in these notes, a political compromise was applied to the Indian-administered side. The region was granted special status under Article 370, a provision allowing for its own separate constitution and flag.
The modern crisis in Kashmir remains the unresolved legacy of 2,000 years of conquests, a sequence of events that peaked with a 19th-century British Bill of Sale.